Hi everybody, Pastor Greg here again today to answer the questions you have about Jesus and God and church. We've got a lot of questions about how Jesus relates to God. And that's really a great and very interesting cluster of questions. In fact, early followers of Jesus, early folks in the church, took about 300 years to ask and answer some of those questions before they found an answer that they felt pretty good about. Well, people continue to ask that question, and we're asking it today. One of the pieces of that question of God's relationship to Jesus was put this way by Nate and Jane. They want to know, did Jesus have to learn about God when he was a kid? Pretty good question. Well, where do we go when we want to start answering a question like that? You know where? That's right. We go to the Bible. I want to read to you a verse from Luke's Gospel. And this verse comes right after a very interesting story. When Jesus was a young boy, about 12 years old, he went to the big city of Jerusalem with his mom and dad. And while he was there, he went to the temple. Now, the temple was kind of like our church. It's a place where people went to worship God and where they went to learn about God and engage in other meaningful activities as a community. Well, when Jesus was at the temple, there is no doubt he was learning about God. But here's the interesting thing. He also was teaching people older than himself about God. As a young boy, Jesus could instruct others about who God was and what God wanted. At the very end of that story is this verse I want to read to you. It's at the tail end of the second chapter of Luke. It said, Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Well, let's take a look at what that might mean. What does it mean to grow in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man? The first part of that is wisdom. And wisdom is a combination of a number of different things. It means what we know with our minds, we understand with our heads, but maybe more importantly than that, it's what we love with our hearts, what we care about, and where our affections are. But it also includes what we're able to do with our hands, our head and our hearts and our hands, our skills, our knowledge, and our affections. They all come together to make us wise. It also says that Jesus grew in stature. What does stature mean? Well, stature is another word that can mean size. Right now, you might be pretty small compared to your mom and dad. But as time goes by and as you keep growing, you're going to keep growing too. And you'll be growing in stature, growing into become older children and then young adults and then fully grown. The final thing that this passage says is that Jesus grew in favor with God and others. What does favor mean? Well, favor means that people think highly of you. They respect you and know that you're a person of your word, that you have integrity and honesty, that you work hard, and people can trust you to behave in good ways and trust what you say will be true. So it says Jesus grew in favor with God and also with others, like family members, friends, and neighbors. How about that? All three ways: wisdom, stature, and favor with God and others. Well, there's one more verse I want to share with you. You see, Jesus didn't stop learning about God when he grew up. In fact, even when he was a grown adult man teaching others and carrying on his ministry, he continued to learn from God. This is a verse that comes from John's Gospel, chapter 5, in which Jesus says this, I tell you the truth, The Son, that is Jesus, can only do what he sees the Father doing. He can do nothing by himself. But whatever the Father does, the Son also does. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he does. Jesus was saying that the things that he taught and the things that he did were things that he learned from his Father. So just like you and I, growing with what we understand with our heads and what we love with our hearts and what we can do with our hands, Jesus grew in wisdom. He also grew up from a young boy to a full man, and he grew in favor with God and others. Well, it's my prayer for you that you'll keep growing in all those ways too. Until next time.